I'm in a town where we have a lot of people who are refugees who have come, some from Somalia, some from Bosnia. I've never heard one of them say that America's a terrible place or be unappreciative of our country. Most of them are thankful. I've met people who've come here from behind the Iron Curtain that got away from communism. They're some of the best Americans we have because they really appreciate how great our country is. And then I hear Representative Omar say, "Oh, America's a terrible place. I thought there'd be justice, and there's no justice here." And it's like, well, she came here and we fed her, we clothed her, she got welfare, she got school, she got health care, and then lo and behold, she has the honor of actually winning a seat in Congress, and she says we're a terrible country. I think that's about as ungrateful as you can get. And so while I'm not saying we forcibly send her anywhere, I'm willing to contribute to buy her a ticket to go visit Somalia. And I think she could look and maybe learn a little bit about the disaster that is Somalia, that has no capitalism, has no God-given rights guaranteed in a constitution, and has about 7 different tribes that have been fighting each other for the last 40 years. And then maybe after she's visited Somalia for a while, she might come back and appreciate America more.
Frankly, I don't know why the president felt the need to tweet on this subject at all. You know, when you argue with a fool, you just prove there are two. And I consider Congresswoman Omar, Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez, Congresswoman Tlaib, Congresswoman Presley, I think is her name. They call themselves the Squad. I consider them to be fools. They hate America. They think America was wicked in its origins, and it's even more wicked today. They ought to be thanking America instead of calling America evil and wicked and racist. But this is America, and they have the right to their opinion. But I don't like to see the president even dignify their point of view. Besides that, I think that the Squad, as they call themselves, they are destroying the Democratic Party. You know, when your opponent is screwing up, don't interrupt him. Let him go. I mean, just looking at this from a political standpoint, if I didn't know better, I would think the members of the Squad were GOP plants. I mean, they think that illegal immigration, socialism, higher taxes, abortion are all moral goods. They think America, Israel, free enterprise are moral bads. That's not what most Americans believe. And that's kind of where I am on the subject. The president has explained his position. He has said, look, here's what I meant. If you're not happy.
Some people did something, said a freshman congresswoman from Minnesota, to support and justify the creation of CARE. Today I am here to respond to you exactly who did what to whom. Madam, objectively speaking, we know who and what was done. There is no uncertainty about that. Why your confusion? On that day, 19 Islamic terrorist members of Al-Qaeda killed over 3,000 people and caused billions of dollars of economic damage. Is that clear? But as to whom? I was attacked. Your relatives and friends were attacked. Our constitutional freedoms were attacked. And our nation's founding on Judeo-Christian principles were attacked. That's what some people did. Got that now? We are here today, Congresswoman, to tell you and the Squad just who did what to whom. Show respect in honoring them, please. American patriotism in your position demand it. For God and country, amen.
What began as another routine political speech quickly turned into one of the most explosive exchanges in Congress. During the debate, Congresswoman Ilhan Omar criticized a bill she described as dangerous and heartless. Her argument followed a familiar theme, that America's systems are unjust and in need of radical change. But then Senator Rand Paul took the floor, and the entire tone of the room shifted. Paul didn't start with policy. He started with something more personal: the story of immigrants who fled communism, refugees who arrived in the United States with nothing, and who later became some of the most patriotic citizens in the country. In his view, these individuals understood something that many politicians had forgotten: how rare and fragile freedom actually is. Then came the line that made headlines. Paul suggested that if Omar believed America was such a terrible country, she should consider visiting Somalia again, not as punishment, but as a reminder of the instability and conflict she had escaped. The remark was controversial, but it underscored a deeper message: gratitude toward the country that provided opportunity and safety. The exchange did not stop there. Paul broadened his criticism to include other progressive lawmakers often referred to as the Squad, arguing that their worldview painted America as fundamentally immoral, while simultaneously benefiting from its institutions and freedoms. He accused them of promoting policies that most Americans reject: higher taxes, socialism, and weaker immigration enforcement, while portraying foundational principles like free enterprise and constitutional rights as negative forces. For supporters of Paul's message, this was not an attack on immigrants. It was a defense of national identity and civic responsibility. For critics, however, it crossed a line into personal and cultural hostility. The clash revealed something deeper than a disagreement over one bill. It exposed a fundamental divide in how Americans interpret their own country's history. One side sees America as a nation built on ideals worth defending, imperfect but exceptional. The other sees it as a nation whose injustices are so severe that structural transformation is necessary. Paul's most emotionally charged moment came when he addressed comments related to the September 11 attacks. He argued that minimizing or abstracting those events with phrases like "some people did something" failed to honor the victims and ignored the reality of the terrorist threat the country faced. By the time he finished speaking, the chamber was no longer engaged in a technical policy discussion. It had become a debate about patriotism, gratitude, and the meaning of American identity itself. And that is why this exchange continues to circulate online years later. Not because it solved a policy problem, but because it captured in a few minutes the cultural and ideological fault lines running through modern American politics. Two visions of America, one rooted in critique and reform, the other in defense and preservation. And neither side is backing down.